There we go. Jules, welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. Sorry.
Good morning.
I was talking, so I'll just sit here.
Yeah, I know I'm a little groggy too.
You don't look
It was
groggy,
very
though.
dark. Oh my God. Thanks. Now that the sun's up, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
I was saying I almost forgot about this morning and I was getting ready to take my dog for a walk. So if you hear someone going woof in the background, it's because I have a rather peeved dog because I made him go in the
Yes.
backyard instead of our normal routine.
That's right. You probably see my cats come in and out too, so it's fine.
Oh, good. Danielle wants to log into coffee. I'm sending her the link.
Oh, great. Okay. And Matt just joined.
Good.
Good morning, Matt. We'll give Danielle a minute and then we'll get started.
Okay. Yeah, I just sent it to her, responded to email. Sounds good. How's everybody's January so far? Hi, Matt. It's been, like I said, it's been a crazy year, 2 years. It's still a little odd.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
Right? Who'da thunk? Here we go. Good morning, and welcome.
Morning.
Hi.
Morning, Danielle.
Good morning.
Well, welcome everyone. So everyone here is familiar with conscious capitalism of Central Maryland, so I don't need to do my normal blurb since you guys have all been around. Welcome. Good morning. Thanks for showing up. Today, we are going to be having a conversation about stakeholder orientation. And I was just going to start with a short video. It's only a couple minutes long that kind of explains very generally what stakeholder orientation is. And then we'll dive into a discussion. Does anyone have anything they want to say before we get started? Am I missing anything?
Sounds like a great
All
plan.
right. Okay. Let's see if I can do this. You would think I would, oh, here we go. Optimize. Oh, I must have closed out of it. Sorry, hold on.
So while you're doing this, what do you guys all, how do you define stakeholder orientation while she's working with technology? So I think this is one that kind of confuses people sometimes. Oh, there you go. I hear it.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you?
It's about to start.
Okay, go ahead.
try
Can you
this
share
again.
it? There we go.
Conscious idea is a movement, an approach to conducting business, and an organization dedicated to advancing all of these. Conscious capitalism exists to elevate humanity. Conscious capitalism comes to life as it's applied to business, nonprofits, and other organizations. 4 core principles guide an organization that practices conscious capitalism. In this video, we'll briefly explore the principle of stakeholder orientation. Pioneering naturalist John Muir observed that when you tug at a single thing in nature, you find it attached to the rest of the world. Such is the case with business, which is an intricate and interconnected web of relationships. Unlike some businesses that believe they only exist to maximize return on investment for their shareholders, conscious businesses focus on their whole business ecosystem, creating and optimizing value for all of their stakeholders. Understanding that strong and engaged stakeholders lead to a healthy, sustainable, resilient business. They recognize that without employees, customers, suppliers, funders, supportive communities, and a life-sustaining ecosystem, there is no business. Conscious business is a win-win-win proposition, which includes a healthy return to shareholders. Some of the most successful companies purposefully create value for all of their stakeholders, building long-term, trust-based, collaborative relationships in the process. By optimizing value for all of its stakeholders, a conscious business cultivates healthy, dynamic, and resilient relationships that can weather most any storm. We invite you to explore our stakeholder-related resources and the other principles of conscious capitalism. And we encourage you to become a member of the Conscious Capitalism community at consciouscapitalism.org to create your profile for the website and share your company's purpose and more with other members of the Conscious Capitalism community.
So that's it in a nutshell. So one way of describing stakeholder orientation is basically the contrast between shareholder orientation, where a business's purpose is just to make money, period, and stakeholder orientation being that one of the purposes is to make money, but it is also so that everyone involved in the organization and everyone who is impacted by the organization benefits. I like the quote in the video where he's quoting John Muir, where if you pull something from nature, you'll find that it's attached to the rest of nature, that nothing exists independently, like in a bubble by itself, that everything's sort of an interconnected web. So let's just go around the room and share who in our organizations we think of as stakeholders. And who wants to go first? Hey, Matt, do you have your mic on? Do you want to start?
Do I? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I would say our vendors are probably our biggest vendor is our paper supplier.
So vendors.
Yep. I don't want to take all the answers, so I'll leave some for everybody else.
I would add, so I had been thinking a lot about this because I have such a small team, and so obviously my team is important, but really as an extension of that, I feel like stakeholders are the community in which I do business. We used to do these social responsibility care reports way back when the chemical industry was worried about how they were impacting the environment. So environment is one, but they talked about what's happening in their own cities and towns. How are their factories and the explosions in their factories and things like that affecting the rest of the community? What impact do they have? And it sounds silly now, but like it was eye-opening back then. That was 20 some years ago, that, oh yeah, guess what? When you have a big explosion and you put these pollutants in the air, you have just affected how many years, people, communities, outcomes that were not intentional. So it's really interesting when you think about it in that way. And, even to the point where, I try to look at products I buy. Are they grown like food sustainably? What's the impact on the people who are harvesting? What are the, there's so many different angles to it. You can go down the rabbit hole. I'll be quiet
Mhm.
now.
For us, I think clients are the stakeholders that I think about the most. You can, I'm a financial advisor and you can run your practice many ways. We hold ourselves to the fiduciary standard where we put our clients' interests ahead of our own in every situation. And I think there's a lot of parallels to that with stakeholder orientation.
Yeah. So Wendy mentioned the team. For us, I'd say that one of our number one stakeholders is our team as well, our employees, because without them, we would not have a company.
We have all of those things as well. Like vendors are really important to us too, but we have something that's a little bit different in our business. We have something called a co-packer, which we couldn't survive without either. And that is the manufacturer that is it's sort of like our ghost partner. And so, we absolutely couldn't do what we do, which is manufacturing, without them. But they manufacture for us and for lots of our competitors. So it's sort of an interesting partner in that regard. But they hold the keys to our business in a lot of regards. But they also manufacture for our competitors. So it's kind of interesting.
That's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of
It
that.
is. It's weird turning over your formulas, to someone else and knowing that they have the formulas for your competitors too.
I imagine that requires a lot of trust.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I think that Tanya and I both, because we're both financial advisors, live with that situation every day. Usually the partner that we work with is somebody like a Schwab or a TD Ameritrade or somebody like that. And of course, and in my case, I work with two of them, two different custodians. And, they do have your business in their hands and you have to trust that. I understand that feeling very well.
Yeah.
I agree with everything that has been shared and hold those stakeholders as well, but I have a slightly different take on who my stakeholders are. So one additional thing that I'm thinking about is partners. And so whether they are, any money is exchanging hands or otherwise, what I'm leading with lately is this idea of what's the value proposition. So why would you want to work with me? Why would you want to advance whatever our goals are? And is there something collective or is it a one-way street? So that feels really important to me because the other stakeholder group is the greater society, right? So whether it be my local community or the world at large, I'm working on behalf of something greater than any one entity, including myself.
Yeah, and I can see how that's very closely tied to purpose.
Yeah, that
So
was.
when you think about, oh, go
Sorry, I
ahead,
was just
Wendy.
going to say that was really beautifully said, Danielle. It was.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
and I think it's a new, not a new. It's always been there, but it's a different way. It's just become more important. I think to know that the people you're partnering with like believe in the same things or have your back, or and that's a dynamic I've been very aware of, especially in the last 2 to 3 4 years. Yeah.
That feels particularly true as profits start coming up. Will I turn down a contract that might be lucrative because our values are not aligned?
Absolutely. Yeah. I hear that.
Sometimes when I hear people are sort of having philosophical discussions about this. And they talk about how the dominant view is that shareholder return is of utmost importance and at all costs. And the more I think about it and the more I live as a business person, the more absurd it sounds, because nothing exists in a vacuum. And so even very savvy business people who really just care about money, they have to at least act like they care about all these other things for things to work out in the long run, if that makes sense. I mean, it's obviously better if we genuinely do care about all of the stakeholders that are involved and are aware of the impact we have in the decisions that we make. But it just seems like it makes good business sense to incorporate this thinking when you're leading an organization. That's my take, at least.
Well, and aren't we seeing the results of a lot of that neglect right now with the great resignation? Like, we're seeing so many people. It's like, guess what? If you didn't care, you need to take a look at this, because this is happening. As I said, systems are breaking down. And some of them should be broken down. And yet, it's really important to kind of have a container, but the container is there to know when it's time to, like, jump out of it, move beyond, switch it around, change the container shape, and there's just so much happening right now.
Yeah. And so when I took a class several years ago that was specifically dedicated to this topic for an entire quarter, and they took us through a series of exercises where we identified who our stakeholders were, and went into depth about what our relationship was at that point in time and how it could be improved. And I'll have to admit that it was an easy thing to grasp and understand, but it became, when I really started to dig in, it became kind of overwhelming because it's so complex and there's so much involved. And I found it easy to lose myself. Like, basically, I started to forget the shareholder piece, because I was like, oh, I've got to take care of all these other things. And then I forgot the shareholder piece, and it was like, okay, wait, it all has to be in balance. It's not at the expense of shareholders. It is shareholder and everyone else. So I had to remind myself of that, because I started to make some maybe not so wise decisions.
Yeah. If you forget the shareholders, then the stakeholders don't benefit either. So
Exactly. It is not a win-win when that starts to happen. Jules, a while back, you were sharing a story with me, and I don't know if you'll remember, because I don't remember the details, but it had to do with your, I think you're one of your co-packer manufacturing partners, where you were working with them. I think it might have had to do with labeling or something, like figuring out what's supposed to be on the label, and that they would benefit. But you basically fronted the cost for something that you shouldn't necessarily have had to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. When you sent me the email about this, I was thinking that you were talking about a different example. I have several.
Oh, okay. Well, either one. You have so many examples of this that I'd love for you to share if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, the one you're talking about right now. So backing up, for people who aren't familiar with my business, what we do is we manufacture gluten-free flour and baking mixes. And so it's really important that that be done in a dedicated gluten-free facility. But my vision has always been larger than that, to help people who are more than just gluten-free, because when you understand the market, it's not usually, it's not just people who are gluten-free. When you find out that you need to be gluten-free, you usually find out, oh gosh, I also have to remove dairy from my diet as well. Or you're not living in a vacuum. There are other people in your household too, and someone else is allergic to eggs or what have you. So when you become aware and conscious of the fact that you have a dietary restriction, there are often other dietary restrictions that you learn that you need to be aware of and remove from your diet or someone else in your family as well. So as part of that, I went down this path of pursuing another certification, which was brand new in the marketplace, and that is a free from certification. So our products are among the first in the country to be certified free from the top 8 food allergens, which are separate and apart from the gluten allergen. And that was like pulling teeth with my co-packer, because the co-packer didn't understand the value of this other certification, because this was layering on work for them to have to swab and all the things they were already doing, which I knew that we would qualify for the certification because they were cleaning and the line was free of these things anyway. And so I knew we would qualify, but they had paperwork to do and they had to turn in the swabs and all that. But the point that Liz was talking about was that to go down the path to do this as my partner, I was asking them to take these extra steps, but I was trying to explain to them that for their business, that if they would see the bigger picture, that it would benefit them as well. Because I said at the beginning, they also work for my, my competitors, right? So they have 70 other people in their business that they work for. And if they would embrace the certification and say, this is a really positive thing for the community as a whole, because other stakeholders, other people in the community need the certification. It helps them to know whether their food is safe to have a certification on it, because then it explains to them that this is good for my family. And that was the reason why I wanted to do it, was it helped people that then they can take this to their other clients and say, we have this that we can offer to you, and you should be putting this on your products too, because we qualify and this would help your customers. And it would be a market advantage for my co-packer to be able to say, we're the first co-packer in the country who could offer this to you. And they just saw it as a burden. They didn't see the market advantage. They didn't see that it would help customers, who are our end goal is to always do that. And they don't see the customer really. They only see me. They see people like me. They don't see who we're serving, because we're in between those two steps. And they didn't see that it was helping people like me, the client, and they didn't see that it was helping the end user, the person in the grocery store. So it was a very long process for me to try to explain how this certification and going through these extra steps would benefit them, would benefit their client, and would benefit the ultimate end user. And it took months to actually really put it in writing, have calls, more writing, more calls. It just didn't, we are still in the process right now of, it's still a burden. They see that it's helpful, but there's only 2 customers there and who are using the certification, which means that we are hamstrung by that they have to run our products only at certain times of the month because everyone else is not certified. And so if we have an emergency run that has to be done, it can't be done because nothing else is run with the certain certification done and all. And so it's a big pain right now. So we're still not there, but it's been a really interesting process to try to explain something that to me was just so obvious, how this is helping everyone, and whatever. It's just been really, really interesting process.
Jules, did you end up working with or collaborating with one of your competitors to try to convince the co-packer?
That's exactly what happened. That's the 2 companies, is mine and my closest competitor at that company. We both were like, light bulb, this is amazing. And so the 2 of us paid for the certification entirely, paid for the plant to become certified, There's an umbrella certification that we paid for that we shouldn't have had to, that the plant should pay for, so that they could then offer that to all of the other people under them. And we paid for it. And, you know, it's sort of amortized now, but yeah, the two of us are like, duh. And they, you know, it's been a little bit like beating our heads against the wall.
You know, a long time ago, I think when someone was explaining stakeholder orientation to me, they included competitors as a stakeholder. And I really could never think of some good example of, you know, other than saying that a competitor is just in the world generally, or in the environment, or in your neighborhood. But I think maybe you have an example that is pretty good of.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think in our business, because our customer is so obviously a stakeholder. I mean, you know, a customer who buys a razor and you're a razor company, obviously they're a stakeholder, but our customer is so highly defined and special, and you know, you can't just buy any razor, you have to buy my razor, you know, that it's very, very specialized. I feel like ours is a little bit different in that regard. And so the people who sell to that specialized customer, we all kind of know each other in some, on some level. And I shouldn't say all, but a lot of us do. And this one particular competitor of mine is actually a really good friend of mine. And so we talk and share way more than anyone would ever believe, because we are so closely aligned as competitors, and we share, we refer customers to each other all the time, and we help each other all the time. And in fact, years ago when my ex-partners had locked me out of my business, she stepped up and volunteered to fulfill orders for me from her warehouse. And so, you know, we shifted our entire manufacturing process, and we ended up having all of our orders sent to her warehouse, and we paid obviously her people to do it, but they fulfilled all of her orders and all of my orders. And you would never think that, you know, your closest competitor would do that. But, you know, we both have the vision of trying to get the best products to the most people in our food allergic community, and this was the best way of doing it. And so, you know, that's just the way to do it. And we've both subscribed to, you know, rising tide lifts all boats kind of theory, and that's just the way that we operate. And not everyone does, but for us it works. And in this situation with the certification, you know, we just thought, this is the best thing for the community. It's the best thing for both of our brands. It's the best thing for the co-packer. It's the best thing for all of the other competitors who are co-packed there. And so we'll pay for it. And, you know, we're still pushing that rope a little bit, but, you know, it's what we're doing. So
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. I can give you the other big example if you want me to, Liz. It's a little different.
Oh, sure.
But, in this business as well, you know, we have to put our product into something. And sometimes what we do is we put it into like basically a brown paper bag, and Liz and Matt print stickers for us to put on the outside. And that's great. But it takes a lot of manpower, you know, to do that. And we get charged by the sticker, not just to print it, but also to apply the sticker. And there has to be one on the front and one on the back. So you can imagine that it's cheaper to print a bag that has all of the things that would be on a sticker already printed on the bag. So whenever it's possible to do that, we do. And we also make very heavy products. And so it's hard to find a bag that doesn't break when you ship it with this heavy product in it. So we had manufactured these bags. I've been through many, many, many manufacturers. And one of the manufacturers that I had used he manufactured these bags that were terrible. And they broke everywhere, and he was late with everything, and there's just any number of problems that I could tell you about. And so he violated our contract 6 days to Sunday. And I had paid for the bags, and he like didn't deliver. And anyway, it's just all kinds of bad things. Anyway, I ended up having to write off thousands of dollars in these bags. Fine, you know, it happens in business. It's terrible. It would have cost more to sue him than it would, you know, for the loss of the bags. Several months later, I was contacted by a gentleman in Mexico who actually, turns out, manufactured the film that made those bags. And he said that he had also been harmed by the same bag manufacturer, because the bag manufacturer had not paid him for the film that he had used to make my bags and several other contracts. And he had blamed the film guy in Mexico for the problem. And it wasn't the film, it was the seals that was the problem. And he wanted two things. He wanted me to give him a chance to make the bags, because not only was he a film manufacturer, but he actually would make a bag too. Make the bags themselves, but also would I write a letter in support of his lawsuit, saying that, you know, it was not the problem, whatever, which was a separate thing. And I said, you know, if you give me these specs, whatever, I'm happy to do that. But I wanted to help him, someone else who had been harmed in the same situation, if I could work with him to perhaps help him become more whole from being damaged by the same guy, and I could transfer my business to him, and it would maybe help him to become whole, then I would give him a shot at making my bags. And so I did do that, and I've been working with this guy in Mexico on making bags since then, because he, you know, seemed like a very upstanding guy and had been harmed by this same other bad guy who basically, you know, went off with both of our money in the middle of the night kind of person. And we've been working together ever since, making bags and, you know, being honest with each other. And we've had lots of problems because of, you know, various and sundry things, but we've gone back to the trust that was built up from the very beginning of us just trying to, you know, say, look, this is a problem, that's a problem, but we both think that the other person is a trustworthy person and we're trying to do the right thing. And so he has, you know, overnighted bags from Mexico, and he has, you know, done all kinds of things trying to make things right, because I gave him a chance to, you know, work on this project when, you know, he needed the chance early on, after he had been wronged. So I think that was another example.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Mhm.
I know that we also essentially view a lot of our competitors as stakeholders. Some of our competitors are just competitors. But I know that our industry has experienced a lot of change over the past 10 years. And it's been actually a pretty rough decade, and a lot of printing companies have gone under. And one would think that having so many of our local printers, and not local, if they shut down, you would think that that would benefit us, because that means there's less competition. But what we've found is that it actually is making things harder. Some of our friendliest competition, well, we've relied on them for counsel. I know Matt has good relationships with a lot of other printers. I don't know if he wants to chime in and share some of these things, but a lot of these printers have really gotten us out of binds. Jules, when you were talking about the time when your biggest competition actually fulfilled your orders during that time, when you were dealing with some things. That comes up all the time for us. Our press goes down. There's some sort of problem where we cannot get this order done, and we need to rely on other partners and other basically competition to outsource this work to. And if they don't exist, if they're out of business, then we're out of luck. So it's actually become tougher as our competition has shrunk.
It's really interesting that you say that, Liz, because you know, friendly competition is a thing, right? And having that resource to go to and knowing that they have you as a resource too does make them you know, this stakeholder.
Do you want to add anything, Matt? Have I left anything out that's important?
No, well, I mean, you covered it. The one time our press was down for an entire week, and then this is a very similar situation to Jules, except for ours was only a week. And the other printer basically let us come in with all of our paper and run their press to produce our work, and they worked around our schedule. And you know, we've reciprocated the favor many times in the past. So when each of us needs something, we call each other to see if we can help. And yeah, we're competitors, but you know, we respect each other's clients, and we don't go after them. And I don't have to worry about him going after our clients and vice versa. It's just kind of it is a friendly, competitive relationship that I really appreciate. And like Liz said, it would be rough if we didn't have this other shop to help when we needed help.
Yeah.
As
Well,
I'm
and I
listening-
imagine if you had like some kind of project that you didn't have exactly the right press for, and they did, I mean, you know, you could send it to them because you know that they would send you the same kind of thing.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
As I'm listening to everyone, I'm thinking about a reframe, and I spend a lot of time reframing things, so this should not be a surprise. But the question that's coming up is, are they truly your competitor? And I'm not asking that to specific people, I'm asking that to all of us, because I think the way our culture is set up, we operate on a scarcity model, right? If I don't get this thing, if I don't close this client, this deal, bring in X amount of dollars, enough to go around. And I'm wondering, beyond, are they truly your competitors? What are you competing for? So going back to something that I said earlier, you know, do you know who you want to work with? Like, are you working just in the name of profits? Are there specific types of people, vendors, et cetera, that you want to work with? Do you have the capacity to actually handle this? And if you were to join in partnership with another group, so technically your competitor today, is there more that you can do together to enlarge in the pie as opposed to trying to go after pieces of the pie individually? So, you know, I just have a lot of questions circling in my head about what it means. And Wendy, Bard, I put this on you because there was a point Wendy asked me, who is your competition? And I was like, I don't have competition. And she's like, but who are the people who do the things that you do? I was like, but they're not my competition. So I really had a mental block about that. And more specifically, because I focus on racial equity, I don't have competition. There is so much work to be done in this space. I will be long gone from this world before this problem is fixed. There is no competition. But I also view that very much the same with business in general, whether it is finances or sales of some particular product. Like, how do you figure out how to increase the market share for it as opposed to gouging one another? And I'm not saying that you all are doing that, but like just as a line of thought, and competing for smaller slices of the pie when we could really all be eating from a bigger one. So just the thought.
I think you make a great point, and it's funny because doing branding for 21 years, everybody says they have no competition. And when I ask about that, it's really in terms of what's happening in your space. If someone is searching for somebody to do the kind of work that you do, what would they search for? And But you bring up a good point because it's shifted big time in the last, I mean, more than 21 years, but you know, in the last 5, 6, 7, there's been a big shift that there is a lot more kind of collaboration, partnership, just mindset shifts, reframes about, are these people truly my competitor, or you know, what are we out to do? And I think it's just, you know, it's part of the whole conscious capitalism model, or whatever you want to call it, consciousness in general. Kind of like, what am I here to do? How can I make the most impact? And what's going to change, or what needs to happen so that I can do that, and screw the competition or the idea of it. So I love that you said that, Danielle. I think that that's really that is, I think, something that's happening. And we still have this framework of, you know, well, our accountants want to know what we're how do we do this year, and we still have to pay the people that work for us and all of that. So we have this idea of competition, but I love that idea. And even having this conversation about our competitors, stakeholders, like there have been so many times when I've called on people that I respect in my industry, and it makes a whole lot of sense as we kind of figure out the clients that we love to work with, or the areas that light us up, to be able to say to someone who doesn't fit that profile as much, hey, I know this person that does great work on this. Like, it's great to have those other folks who have specialties in an area. So that's where just kind of having that whole broader stakeholder orientation, I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, and if you think about it, if you want to have that kind of relationship with your friendly competition, or whatever we're going to call them, other people in our industry who are doing similar work, you're going to have to run your business in a certain way where you're not being cutthroat and you're being trustworthy. Because if you aren't trustworthy, and then you end up going to them with a need, they're not going to want to reciprocate. They're not going to want to help you. So just having that mindset from the beginning, it's necessary to have that kind of healthy working relationship with the community around you.
Yeah, it does drive, you know, the way you do business in every aspect of your business. If you're sort of thinking about, I mean, I certainly don't think, well, just in case I might need it, I better be an honest business person. But like, it does sort of underlie, you know, just, it's a good thing I'm an honest business person, right? Like, because if I needed it, you know, but yeah, it does pervade everything you do.
From my perspective, I've kind of walked away from the whole competition model. And I forget who said it. It was probably Danielle, but I'm not sure. Said that there is no competition. And I believe that that's coming from a scarcity point of view. Somebody said that too earlier. I forget who. No business, my business, your business, any business, anybody in this call that has a business would want to suddenly have to take on all the clients in the entire world out of that business. It would just overwhelm. I mean, you're not tooled to take care of the world. You're tooled to take care of a small community. And looking at the other people in your field as being partners in a way that are taking care of the needs of all the other people you don't have the capacity or the desire or anything else to, it is a blessing and a comfort. I don't want to see anybody do without any of the services or products that we at this call make or build or create, or however you want to say it. People shouldn't have to do without, and with as many people doing as many things, one doesn't have to do without. Okay, you call XYZ and their capacity is full. You call up ABC and they say, yeah, we can help you. And whether that capacity is food or consulting services to help with racial equity and inclusion, whether it's brand design or accounting or financial services or any one of those things. It's good to know that you don't have to worry about the world. You only have to worry about your community.
Mhm.
That's my point of view.
Yeah, you bring up a very good point. And actually, when you said there is no business that can handle the whole world. Amazon might try, but
well, you and I both
but
grew up with the days when AT&T handled telecom for the United States and several other countries as well, all by themselves. Things were rougher when it broke up. I'm not saying that for what, but eventually the telecom service has improved.
Yeah. Well, and it makes me think of one of the main reasons why I'm so passionate and determined to be in business and to be involved in this community. And that is because the idea of big business taking over the world and losing the business diversity that has existed is terrifying to me, and it's not a world that I want to live in. And it's hard to describe and talk to people where it's like, okay, imagine that all you have is Amazon and Walmart and Starbucks coffee, and that's it. Like nothing else exists because there is no other small business that can thrive in this economy. What does that look like? Isn't that very stale and sad and there's just no life. So I want to preserve or increase business diversity, and that because that's the world I want to live in, and so that's why I'm here.
It strikes me that there's another opportunity here, and it is related to our own mental health and our well-being. I don't want to do everything. There are things that I do exceptionally well, and I know that, and I want to sit and live in those spaces. And there are other people whom one might view as your competition, but I'm like, but you actually do this so much better, and it brings you joy, which means I have a niche market that I'm working with. And so if I can say, this is the space that I wish to operate in, and no, I don't want to cover all the business, all the aspects of the business, I actually gain in my own personal world because I'm free to do the things that make me happy. Yeah. And so sometimes it feels counterintuitive that we want to take on more and more and more, but I'm like, the more comes with a penalty, if you will.
Absolutely.
Very true.
I think the word there is cost. It's not, I guess it's a penalty if you don't want to pay it, but it's definitely a cost. No matter how you wrap your mind around it and reframe it and all those other things, it's still out of your either conscious pocket or financial pocket or one of those pockets.
Well, we are going to wrap up this conversation. I'm just going to give everyone a moment to say any last things they want to say, and then Tanya's going to share a little bit about membership. So speak now, or we're moving on. Sorry, that sounded very abrupt.
I know.
Wendy.
You guys, this group is just so smart. I enjoy these conversations. I was, just being honest, like I said, I almost forgot about it this morning, and then I'm just so glad that we had this discussion because it really just brings up some great points. So I appreciate it. Love the conversation. So thank you all. I appreciate you.
Thanks. I feel the same way. And thank you so much, Jules, for sharing your stories about your business. And thank you, Danielle, for coming out and sharing. So Tanya, take the stage.
Thanks, Liz, and thank you for setting up this call. I feel like it was a great conversation. I feel like I made a lot of notes, things to think about. So, I mean, I like the speaker format too, but I think that this format has a lot to offer. So thank you for setting it up and keeping it going for 2022. So if you would like to keep it going, I hope that you will spread the word to other like-minded business owners that you may know, that Conscious Capitalism of Central Maryland is going to be continuing to foster a community that you can join in. And if you go to our website, Conscious Capitalism, cmd.org, you'll see all the members who have posted their listings there. We're growing our community every day. We're going to be hosting quarterly events with conversations just like this one. We have a few other events planned throughout the year. COVID, pending COVID outcomes, they may be in person, they may be virtual. We're going to be working on that. But we do invite everyone to join this community, no matter where you are on your journey of becoming a conscious capitalist. I see somebody's, let's see if it's in the chat. Thank you for throwing the website into the chat, but there's a couple different membership options. If you want to talk about becoming a member, if you're not a member, or if you would like any of your friends to know more about membership, I'm open to talking to anyone about the benefits of membership and becoming more involved. So thank you. And I'll put my contact info in the chat.
Thank you, Tanya.
Can I ask a quick question for you, Tanya, though?
Sure.
Speaking of membership, or is the membership website gonna just send us a notice to debit our accounts for the fees, or for the membership fees, or how's that gonna work?
I feel like I already received my message from Liz, letting me know that the 25th is the operative date. So
Okay.
I hope that you're going to stay with us.
Yeah.
Kevin.
For auto renewal, right?
Yeah.
So MemberWorks
Yes.
has auto renewal for members who have already joined. And then we're hoping that everyone here will share the link to Conscious Capitalism so that we can also grow our membership as well.
Kevin, if you did not get that email, you may want to try logging in through the website, because it could be that the email in MemberWorks isn't correct. But you can reach out to me and we can figure that out if we need to.
Okay.
So in the chat, Wendy put in our website if you're interested in joining or finding out more information. I also in the chat included 2 articles about stakeholder orientation that are worth reading if you're interested in learning more. And then one more thing I want to put in the chat. The next event for a C3MD event is in April, so it's a couple months away. And that's going to be a similar type of format. We're going to be talking about purpose-driven business. But I also want to put in the link, the next event that CCI, which is Conscious Capitalism International, they are hosting a series of virtual events that anyone can attend, where people from all around the country will be attending. And at that event, Catherine Ellen, who's a co-founder of AO People Partners, and Mike Corkery, CEO of Deltec, will be talking about culture. And I'll just put that link in there. And there should be I think we sent out an email with the link to register for that event as well.
We did. Our newsletters that we send out will have more information on some of National's news and events that come up that are mostly free to attend. And then we'll be sharing all of that with everybody who's here and others.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming out, and it was a great discussion. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day,
Everybody.
Danielle. Good luck this afternoon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Good to see everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a nice day.